that vaccine rollout, there was some news that did happen today that could speed up. It does increase the risk factor a little bit from a distribution as well, and I want to get Cody's take on it. But the Biden administration is now planning on breaking with the Trump strategy of holding back half of U.S. vaccine production, and they're releasing most of what they have available. Now, what that means is, as many of you guys know, in that vaccine, you have to take them twice, right? You have to take the Pfizer vaccine twice, the Moderna vaccine, and you have to take them over a time frame. And so with Pfizer, I believe, Cody, it's 28 days, right? So you take the first vaccine and then you take the second vaccine dose in 28 days. So what the Trump administration is doing is they're holding back that second dosage for people that have already taken the first shot. Now, what the Biden administration is saying is we're going to try to speed up the distribution of the vaccine. And so we are going to distribute all of what we have available and not hold back that second shot. And the hope is that Pfizer specifically, the supply side distribution, they're confident that that will maintain where it is. And so the vaccine will continually be distributed. Nobody will miss their second shot. Now, obviously, the risk is Pfizer needs to keep up the supply side. The benefit of it is we see a much quicker rollout if successful. And so you're seeing some positive movement there from a market response perspective, saying, you know what? We know the labor market numbers are absolutely trash right now. We know the concern from an economic perspective. There's a reason we're talking $2,000 stimulus checks, right? So we know that we're giving the labor market a little bit of leeway here, giving them some time for this distribution of the vaccine. Hopefully reopens up the economy. We start seeing the U.S. economy start to steamroll again. So that's what's happening in the labor market numbers right now, Tim.
And Cody, what is your read on that? Because it's an interesting strategy. Obviously, the economy this year, one of the most important parts of it is getting this vaccine out to people and hitting that 50% mark. We've got a bunch of targets. What's your read on this new stuff?
So there's a risk reward to both strategies, and trying to say one is better than the other it's really hard to say, because like Matt was saying, there is the 2 doses needed. Now, the reason there's 2 doses, so quick science lesson for you guys, is you have 2 different types of antibodies that form in your system against various different viruses or bacterium. And what that is, the IgM response, which is the initial response, followed by the IgG response. So the initial dose is going to spike your IgM, and shortly, about a week afterwards, you're going to get an IgG response. Your IgG is your long-term antibodies. So as they go up, so your IgM will go up and then come back down, right? And basically go to nothing. The IgG will go up, and as it starts fading again, that's when you want to give that second dose, because then at the second dose, it'll pop up and you'll end up with a higher just resonance level of where the IgG antibodies maintain in your system. So with the strategy of holding back half the doses, we want to guarantee that that second dose is readily available when needed. As Matt was saying, the Biden philosophy is to give out everything we have now, and they're going to bet that Moderna and Pfizer can maintain their supply and the supply chain and everything to where when it gets to that 28-day level, which also that's not exact. It's kind of a window. So if someone doesn't take it exactly 28 days later, maybe it's 2 days later, 3 days later, maybe even a week later, that'll still have that secondary IgG response. So the question is the distribution risk of giving out the vaccine, everything that we have now, going to leave people without their second dose for a longer window than is needed to maintain that second spike? So there's benefits to it, which means that more people can get the initial vaccine right away, which will give resistance to their body to COVID-19. But are they going to be left high and dry if there's any hiccup with distribution for that second dose? So pros and cons to both sides, and I'm interested to see that if we do have no hiccups in the supply chain, then the massive distribution would be a faster strategy to resolving COVID-19. But it just takes on that risk of that secondary vaccine, because all a vaccine is synthetic herd immunity. Because that's all it is. Because this is the same response that our body does when we get sick with anything. The same thing happens. We're just creating it synthetically through the vaccine. So,
Well, and honestly, Cody, I was reading the story today, and I knew about the Trump administration holding back, and I knew that the Biden administration hinted towards it. And, you can see a positive, negative on both sides of it, Ryan. It's just like it's like a trade. You're weighing the reward to risk ratios, right, and the
exactly.
probability and all that. And I'll just tell you what I told Tim when I first read the news. I said, because we were on the phone together, I said, the Biden administration better be really confident in Pfizer here,
You got to
because
make
because it's really Pfizer the one saying, yeah, our distribution is going to be where it needs to be,
that's
because
exactly
that's
it.
the risk.
That's exactly the risk, because you get to a point to where you had, millions of people who don't get that second dose. Well, from
Yeah,
just a medical, clinical, scientific standpoint, they're basically going to have to scrap that first dose and say, we got to start you over. You got to get 2 more doses again. There is a risk in there.